Ta-da! I'm bringing my jazz hands to come in. Thank you for that beautiful introduction, Michelle.
And sparkles.
Yes, I have my sparkles on. I don't have as many cool wigs as Michelle, but when I do finally raid Michelle's like costume chest, I can't wait to take some things out of there. Thank you. I'm so excited to be on the main stage today, and we have had so many amazing people on this stage the last couple days. I don't know if you guys saw Jigger's keynote, if you saw Sam yesterday, obviously the amazing Michelle, who's been hosting and just providing us with so much gap year gold. I'm sure it's been such an amazing event for all of you, as it has been for me. I feel like I'm going back into my gap year when I'm attending this, so I get super pumped. So if you don't know me yet, hello, I'm Jazz. If this is your first day joining, hello, we're so happy to have you. So I'm the community manager here at CanGap, and I'm sure you can notice I'm coming to you. Sorry, I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, so that'll give you a hint to what I'm about to say. I'm coming at you from the lovely Himalayas in India. I live on the other side of the world, and I'm going to tell you how I got here because it all starts from my gap year. But it's a beautiful sunny morning. It's 6:45 a.m. And honestly, there is nothing I'd rather get up this early for than Gap Year Frosh Week. So I want to see who's here, who's in the chat. Drop some exclamation marks. Let me know who's in here. And I want to know, like, just give me one word of like what you've taken so far from Gap Year Frosh Week. Just one word. It can be the name of a speaker. It can be an awesome quote that someone said. It can be someone that you've met. Anything, just one word that kind of describes how you're feeling, what the last couple of days have felt like for you. I just want to see a little bit of excitement in the chat before we get started. And of course, if you have not grabbed your crafting material, please take a minute, go grab your crafting material, paper, sparkles, markers, stickers. And if you want to do digital art, you're totally welcome to do digital art. This is accompanied by a giveaway later. So please do, just doodle away during my session. I'm sure your teachers never told you to just doodle away during a lecture or a class, but today I want you to doodle. I want you to take what I'm saying and I want you to bring it to life in what you're manifesting for your gap year and what you want your gap year to look like. So ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to be building our no fear gap years. It can look however you want. It could be a roadmap. It could be random photos. It can be whatever you want it to be. But I just want it to be something that is all of the goodness in your brain about what you want to do this year coming out onto paper or onto the screen so that we can really start to bring it to life. All right, I love this. I'm seeing community. Hey, Emma, how's it going? I'm seeing authenticity, excitement, inspired. I love it. These are all the best words. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, amazing. Amazing. So I know that there's a slight delay. So I'm going to just, while everyone's kind of gathering their things, keep sharing as well. I'm going to just add my little presentation to the screen. There we go. Oh man, I forgot that when it's in PDF, it shows the entire PDF outline. That's okay. This is my first question of the day. So once you've sat down and you're feeling good, I want you to just take a deep breath. And before you start to doodle, before you pick up those sparkles and get excited, I want you to ask yourself, if you could do anything this year, knowing you'd never fail, what would you do? What would you do? Would it be learning new skills? Would it be traveling the world? Would it be doing something solo that you've never done before? Learning a new language? What would you do if you knew you'd never fail? So whatever it is, go into it with a mindset right now that you will be successful and it will be amazing and it will be incredible and you will master it. And if you feel like sharing, please do. I love sharing. I love engagement during a chat. So feel free to, if anything comes up that you want to share with the group, remember there is so much power in sharing what we want to do and bringing that energy into the world. That is how we manifest. So I'm going to how do I kind of minimize this little guy? There we go. I'll keep it like that. So if you could do anything this year, knowing you'd never fail, what would you do? So I want to talk a little bit about failure, obviously, if you didn't guess, because I truly believe that failure is our greatest teacher. And I'm leaving that up on the screen because I really, truly believe this. And I'm going to tell you why. And I think that failure and fear go very much hand in hand. And that's why I love this theme of the no fear gap year, because it allows us to step out of our comfort zone. It allows us to think beyond what is possible. Like, you know what, if you want to write like I'm going to learn how to fly on your on your no fear gap year picture, that is totally okay. Like, that can mean so many things, and I want us to be silly and creative and have fun with this, because my goodness, like, it's been a hard couple have fun right now and use this year as this launch pad to just rocket into young adulthood, which is such an exciting but also scary transition. Oh, I love this. Get my driver's license. Yes. Take a big step towards architecture. Yes. I love it. Learn sign language. Oh my gosh. Jessica, there's so many gappers learning sign language on their gap year. You need to connect with them in Discord. And I believe also Michelle put some awesome free resources in Discord as well. That's so awesome. Jess, start selling my paintings. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. Oh, I love it. Amazing. Jess, I'm looking forward to some awesome bomb no fear gap year art after the session. So, if failure is our greatest teacher, let me take us back. That's my time machine sound. And I want to share a little bit about my failures and how they completely shape entire life. And what's so fitting is that I think that my biggest failures all came from my gaps. I took multiple gap years or gap semesters, or I'll just say gaps, and I'll get to the kind of the timelines as we go. But I want to start off with the fact that I grew up in Toronto. I went to Etobicoke School of the Arts. I was a big arts nerd. I was a musical theater major. I love to sing. I love to dance. I love to act. I love to be silly and on stage. That is where I was shining. And my whole life, I thought, like, I'm going to move to New York and I'm going to go on Broadway, and that is going to be my future. And you know what happened? I applied for all of my dream schools in grade 12, and I didn't get into a single one. I didn't get into a single one. Like, it was so overwhelming. And I remember thinking, like, well, what have I been doing? I've dedicated my whole life to all of these things in the arts that I thought were going to just take me to the end, and I was going to have this beautiful life on stage. And that didn't happen. It didn't happen at all. Well, I shouldn't say it didn't happen at all. I went on to do lots of fun other music stuff, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But what this big dream that I had put like all my eggs in this one basket, and it didn't work out. And when it didn't work out, I was like, well, what the heck do I do now? So I'm sitting there thinking, why? Why me? Why am I not getting in? Am I not talented enough? Did I not put the work in? I'm so passionate. But it took me a while, but I realized that this is clearly just not my path. And I think this is kind of the first lesson around failure, because again, we're going to keep redefining what this failure even means in our lives. Because did I fail, or was it just not the right path for me? Just like all of you, right? You know, you were probably told, like, yeah, college, university, but you decided it just wasn't the right path for you, right? So here we are. I'm sitting there going, what am I going to do next? And I realized that I had, over the last couple of years in high school, I had developed this beautiful passion for development. And, I had all these, I was really inspired by travel. My mom was a travel agent when I was growing up, and she used to take me all over the world. It was amazing. And we used to go to the Caribbean, and we used to go to the South USA. We went to France, and I think I was like almost born in Australia. My mom was awesome. My mom is still awesome. And I remember whenever I would travel, I would really take a look around me, and I'd wonder, why do kids my age and families just like mine don't have access to the same resources and support that I do? Why do I have the privilege of turning on my tap and having clean drinking water whenever I need it? Why do I have the privilege of turning on a light switch and knowing that electricity is always going to be there? Why do I have the privilege of knowing that I'm going to get a good education every day I go to school? This really troubled me. This really troubled me. And I remember one day I turned on a documentary. I don't even know how I found that documentary because YouTube wasn't around. I'm trying to remember how I even found that documentary. Internet was still pretty new. It was called Flow by Irina Selena. I'm going to drop it in the chat. Oh, Naomi, Miss the Caribbean. Oh, girl, let's go together. Flow by Irina Selena. This is quite an old documentary because I think I watched this in like 2007. So y'all were just babies back then. And this documentary talked about the water crisis across Africa, across the continent of Africa, specifically due to large organizations and companies like Nestle coming in and kind of showing locals, why they should be using, water, bottled water, or why they should be using packaged products instead of relying on natural resources, and them also trying to come in and kind of solve the water crisis without actually putting the work in. It was very much this idea of white saviorship, which is this idea that we're coming from the West and we're just imposing our ideas in the global South and saying like, well, we know better, we know how to make it work, so just do what we do. And throughout this documentary, you see how much that just does not work, and this kind of cycle of poverty that it continues to create. And I think many of us, especially in 2022, and you being these amazing young change makers, I'm sure you have seen the impacts of climate change and poverty and natural disaster over your whole life, and watching war and just crisis unfold because we're not actually putting these real solutions into place. So this was something that bothered me for years, and I couldn't figure out what to do. I just did not know. And I'm curious. I'm going to put the question out there. Has anyone ever had an idea, but they just didn't know where to take it? You have this idea and you're like, I want to do something to solve this problem, or I want to do something to make this situation better, but I just don't know what the heck to do. Drop it in the chat if there's something. Or maybe it was like a project that you started that you just could never finish. Like you just constantly got stuck in trying to get to that next step, or the idea slowly, everything just kind of started fading away because you couldn't get to the end result. Drop it in the chat if you've been there. But this, because I was so young, I guess I was like 16, I really just felt also so inadequate and young and inexperienced. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that I could do something. I could start somewhere. And this is why I love Sam's talks, because he always talks about small, consistent actions. And I think there is nothing more powerful or sustainable than taking those small steps towards something that could be so powerful and impactful. And I'm going to get to what that ended up being almost 10 years or 6 years later. Yeah, 7 years later for me in this journey. But what I actually ended up doing was, I went to my mom and I'm like, Mom, I want to start a nonprofit. And she was like, all right, start a nonprofit. And I decided that nonprofit was going to focus on supporting communities in the global South, in making sure that leaders in the actual communities could take on the responsibility or be that representative for what the community needed when it came to water sanitation and conservation. Those were my kind of topics. Pause. I'm loving what I'm seeing in the chat. Been there. Love it. Michelle, as a teacher, I saw that students were too focused on grades, missing out on the experience. Yes. Leading to the amazing CanGap. I love it. Yes. Yeah. And I think what's so powerful about our journeys, and especially with a gap year, is like we kind of have that opportunity to stop and observe and really understand the problems around us and how to address them. So here I am, I'm starting this nonprofit, and I decided that, okay, well, what's skills do I have? If I don't really have any of these skills, I don't really know how to run a nonprofit, I don't know what to do, why don't I start off with using the one thing that I love, which is music, and use that as a way to be this powerful force to raise money and raise awareness about water and sanitation issues in the global South. And that is how I started Rain for Water, my first nonprofit. This was the first event I did this photo. There is a picture of me and my high school friends and like my first boyfriend came together and we put on this incredible show. And it was literally just for our parents. Like, let me be honest, it was like just our parents, and they supported what we were trying to do and what we were trying to accomplish. Oh, there's a little pop up here. One second. And oh my, why is this pop-up not going away? Sorry about that, friends. And we put on this beautiful show of just singing our favorite musical theater songs, and we raised like $200. And it wasn't that big of a deal, but it really inspired me to be like, okay, well, I think this is what I want to do. I want to, oh, I just lost my screen. I'll just keep talking while I try and bring it back. One second, friends. I have the world's worst laptop. I apologize. So I feel like whenever I'm doing something awesome and empowering and powerful, it always glitches on me. There we go. All right, I'm gonna back. So this event really inspired me to move forward and, actually learn more about development and how I could play a bigger role than just doing events. Like, how could I be part of the conversation? How could I bring more awareness to my community? So I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I want to travel to West Africa and I want to learn more about the water crisis. And you know what she said to me? After you give me 1 year of university. And I was like, no. Has anyone else's parents been in the way of their gap year dreams as they've been on this journey? Drop it in the chat if you've been there, and which is even a better reason to send them to the parent session on Saturday. But I felt like this was like my first failure because I, at 18 years old, could not convince my mom that I was ready. Was like, nope, I think you need to do a little bit more education before you dive into this journey. And because I love my mom and I respect my mom, and I thought 1 year of university can't hurt, I went in with an open mind and I applied for the only program that was available at York University at that time, because it was the middle of summer after grade 12. And I applied for professional writing, which is very funny because it's kind of a foreshadow to the fact that I am a professional writer as well. But I did that first year of university. I'm going to be honest, I hated it. I did not enjoy my first year of university. I was commuting. I couldn't find the right community. I wasn't clicking with my teachers. I didn't enjoy my classes. And I told my mom at the end of the first year, I said, Mom, I've done it. I've given you my 1 year and I would like to now be able to travel. And she said, fine, you were able to show me that you could commit. You can go to West Africa. And I was like, awesome. So as soon as I made that decision, my mom said yes, fear instantly sunk in. And I thought, oh my gosh, but what if no one takes me seriously because I'm a university dropout? And that was like a slap in the face, which was so funny because originally wasn't even thinking of that post-secondary institutional education side of my life. And here I was now a year after it thinking, oh my gosh, what if no one takes me seriously? So what I did is I decided to travel a little bit on my own. Before heading to West Africa, I actually ended up going to Europe on my own and just getting my feet wet and, kind of just getting that experience on my own. I'm sure there's other people out there who are also traveling solo this year. And this, and if you are, please drop it in the chat. If you're traveling this year, tell me in the chat. I'm so excited. And this was actually such a beautiful experience for me because that solo travel allowed me to really step out from kind of like my home base, get into an uncomfortable environment, and really reflect on what I wanted to do. And I thought to myself, well, if I really want to work in the nonprofit world, and if I can go abroad and learn from all these local leaders, why don't I start with doing a smaller program that allows me to understand more about the pieces that I was focusing on with my nonprofit. And that was everything to do with sponsorship and fundraising and event planning, and obviously I was doing the event, so I wanted to learn kind of those core skills. So I ended up enrolling in a college program and doing a 2-month diploma. And believe it or not, before my graduation even hit, I did graduate. Before my graduation even hit, I headed to Ghana. And in Ghana is where I met my first social enterprise. So basically, I went there with this idea of learning more about the ins and outs of grassroots development. And my dear best friend was also studying abroad there for the year. So I had a place to stay, someone to kind of show me around, and to introduce me to organizations across Ghana that were doing powerful work. And this social enterprise really, really stuck with me. It's called Trashy Bags. So Trashy Bags, what they do is they would actually pay individuals who were lower income, who didn't have access to employment or weren't educated. They would pay them to collect plastic waste. And plastic waste is quite rampant in the global south, just because it's just so easily accessible and easily made. So one of the things that was like really overwhelming in Ghana was, instead of like a water bottle, you actually drink these water sachets. So it's kind of like, how do I explain it? It's basically like a thin plastic with water in it. And it's just like a little bag, and you rip off a corner and you drink it. And this is even like worse, because sometimes that soft plastic is really, really hard to recycle or to even collect. So they would actually, deploy a team to collect all of this type of waste, and then they would upcycle it. So upcycling means that they would turn it into something new. They would turn it into a new product, and that would be these bags. So it was called Trashy Bags. So these bags were, they were backpacks, they were purses, they were laptop cases. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen these kind of products now kind of in the market around, because this concept is not so new anymore. But back in 2012, it was quite a new concept, and it was a really innovative concept. And what was so beautiful is that the sale of these products would then go back into helping keep the streets clean, helping provide employment to locals, and of course, employment to the team that was selling. And I really fell in love with this social enterprise model because it just seemed so much more sustainable than a nonprofit model. I was working on my nonprofit at home, thinking like, how do I access grants and fundraising and rely on other people to help us get to where we want to be? But I loved this idea that we could have a business that had a social impact element that worked towards social justice, environmental justice, and operated as a business that was kind of changing the status quo with a triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. So this inspired me to head back home and learn more how to apply this model to my own nonprofit. And this is where my second failure really came in. And I love that this happened too, because it's what led me on my next journey. I tried so many different ways to make my nonprofit sustainable through a social enterprise model, but I just could not make it work. And I think what was really important in that journey is that, like, I still wasn't that familiar, or I wasn't that educated on the topic. I hadn't explored enough. I hadn't talked to enough leaders. But of course, when you're young and you're working on a project that you're passionate about, it's so easy for us to get so demotivated and deflated and feel like, oh God, like I should just give up now. But then also feeling like, oh my gosh, if I give up, I'm going to feel horrible. And like, I really want this to work out. And I want that to stick with you, because I'm going to let you know right now, you're going to start a million projects, maybe even this year. And maybe half of them or all of them don't work out. But trust me, it will lead you to the next big thing that you're working on. And when I say big thing, I mean to you. It doesn't have to be some massive thing that you're creating. You don't need to launch the next rocket ship or create the next eco car. Again, it's those small, consistent actions moving towards a larger goal, right? Your larger goal. So in this journey, I met a lot of amazing people. I actually ended up in that nonprofit journey and trying to figure out how to make it a social enterprise or how to make it profitable in a way that could actually continuously kind of become an ecosystem. I came across so many amazing people, and I actually ended up being recommended to travel to India. And I traveled to India for the first time in 2014. This was a small break from a job that I had. I was working in event management and catering, and I wanted to go away for a month to India and learn more about development in a different country, a different context. And there, I absolutely fell in love, or I should say here, because that's where I am right now. But the experience was horrible. It was a total volunteerism bust. And this is why even if you joined me yesterday in the ethical volunteering session, you know that we talked about transparency and asking questions. And I didn't do enough of that going into that program. But what I learned from it is that I really had a love for diving deeper and helping organizations find ways to be more sustainable instead of relying on foreign volunteers who usually don't necessarily always have the skills and expertise. I mean, like I was 20, 23, 22 at the time. Like it didn't really make sense to have me come in and share my expertise when I didn't really have any expertise to share. I was there more to learn. So what happened is after that trip, I decided to come back. I came home, got settled, figured out how I could get back to India and how I could learn more from on the ground organizations really doing the work. And then I ended up back in India in 2015 in January to work with an organization that was very, very focused on grassroots development and supporting local leadership. So really that ground up, that bottom up approach of leadership and development. And they dropped me in this little village called Gajner, and it's in Rajasthan. So it's about 30 kilometers from a city called Bikaner, and I'll get to why that's important in a minute. But this village was so tiny, totally in the desert. It was so hot. I was constantly sweating. It was amazing. And it was really like only had like one hotel. It was like a famous kind of like old hotel that one of the Maharajas had used as like his hunting palace. And the city of Bikaner was really is very, very beautiful and has all these beautiful old havelis. So these very old, beautiful styled homes and mansions. But it wasn't really necessarily this like hot tourist spot. So it was very overwhelming to be dropped there as a foreigner who did not speak Hindi or Marathi or any of the local languages. And I was dropped there and told to just observe and to make and to build relationships. And this was so, so powerful for me because for 6 months, all I did was just build relationships. And during that time, I'm going to show a few photos. Actually, let me make this bigger. During that time in those building those relationships, I got to learn more about what the community really wanted to do and what they were passionate about and what they were interested in. And so this first picture is actually a photo from an adjoining village, actually from Gajner, where the community actually had no school, no shops, nothing. And there was so much passion for innovation and what they could do. And within the 1 year that I was there, these ladies here on the right hand side, they actually started a chicken coop and were able to sell the eggs to their neighbors and create a little bit of income. So it was this beautiful like microfinance kind of project. We had these other families in Gajner who were working on stitching and design and how they could create products that they could sell to tourists who would come to the hotel. So finding ways to connect kind of skills with market available so that they could create an income. This picture I love because this was our outdoor fitness and sports club. And this was just really to get kids out and socializing and doing something other than just focusing on schoolwork. Like how could they do things that were healthy and built community? And this project is my favorite. So this is my dear friend, Hara deep in the back. This is my dear friend Leah. And this is Elliot. And the four of us actually developed an amazing waste management project. My ex says life be tough in that beautiful desert. 100%. And we built this beautiful waste management project where what we did is we worked with the local community. There's a few local families who were very, very much kind of like outcast from the community because they were a lower caste and a lower, had much more like lower economic status, right? And we wanted to build more community, build more equality among them. So we decided, hey, like, what if we build out this project with everybody involved so that we can show how we can make this a community effort? And it doesn't matter who you are in this community, but you can make something beautiful and sustainable happen. So what we did is we hired one of the men in the more kind of outcast, lower caste community, and we had him help collect the trash that we would set up, all the trash cans that we set up across the village at all the stands, at all the like the chai shops and the snack shops, and there wasn't that many shops. There was maybe like 8 shops, but it was a great start. And he would come and he would collect the trash, and we would make sure that whenever he did, each of the workers at these stalls in these shops would actually pay him a sum of amount of money for him to collect it, and then he would take it to the city landfill, or he would actually go to the recycling manufacturer space, and he would actually give bulks or kgs of plastic, soft plastic. He would sort it all based on the bins that we had, and he would give it to them, and they would actually give him money for bringing that plastic in because they could go back into the system to create new products. Recycling and upcycling, the magic of waste management. And after about a year, they had become an actual profitable job for this man, while cleaning up and beautifying the beautiful village of Gajnir. And I could talk for hours about the incredible things that we did in that time. We had young girls who were so passionate about health and menstrual health, and they created a menstrual pad project where they were selling reusable pads door to door. There was just so much innovation because they had finally come across people who wanted to listen, who wanted to learn from them, who wanted to know what they were passionate about. And I'm telling you, this was all youth led. Like, Hadip is probably the oldest kid that we worked with, and he is almost my age, I guess. I guess he's probably like 25 now. And a lot of them were a lot younger, and they were just such amazing leaders, just taking initiative because they finally had someone who wanted to listen. But then something happened. Unfortunately, I had to go home because I was dealing with some health issues. And when I checked back on the project a couple months later, I actually found out that they were starting to fall apart. And they were starting to fall apart because we hadn't set them up in the most sustainable manner. And when I talk about the most sustainable manner, I mean that there was so much that still needed to be done. We needed people to continue motivating these kids. They didn't have their parents to support them in leading these projects. We needed to have engaged the parents more in what was happening. They needed funding and other resources. They needed the time and energy when they were already so strapped down with school and assignments. And this was a really, really hard moment for me. And I'm curious, I'm going to put a question out there. Has anyone ever felt like they put time into something that was just so beautiful and so amazing, and it just wasn't super successful, and it really hurt? Tell me if you've been there. So it's like the opposite side. Like, you can't figure out what to do with your idea, and then you finally do something amazing, and something just doesn't work out. That was really, really hard for me. I found that I just felt like I'd let the kids down. I feel like I'd let myself down. I felt like I had fallen into a trap of not actually being able to do something super sustainable. And I came home while I was home, I felt like I'd fallen into this deep despair. And you know what? I'm going to let you know right now that pit of despair, that pit of gap year, that slump, you're all gonna hit it. And that's why it's so important to be prepared for it. And I think the secret to getting out of that slump is to focus on your mental health. Focus on your holistic health. And that's actually exactly what I did. And it actually ended up allowing me to learn a really cool skill. I kind of just put some time into my mind and my body, and I picked up aerial arts, and I became an awesome aerial artist. And it was so fun because it allowed me to go back to my roots of arts and performing. Funny enough, this is actually a photo of me doing this in India, so I couldn't find a good one of me doing it at home. But this ended up being such a beautiful passion of mine, and became so therapeutic and meditative for me that it allowed me to really get clear on what I wanted next. And I was able, once my mind was clear and my body was healthy, I was able to think, okay, well, those projects are where my heart lies. I want to continue supporting youth in being the epic, amazing, incredible leaders that I know they can be. How can I continue to do that? So that momentum, that clarity, that excitement allowed me to dive a little bit deeper into what was available at home. How can I get started on this journey? And I'll go back to India eventually. I knew I would. But what can I do at home that would be amazing and feed my soul? And I came across this incredible job opportunity and it was the executive director of a youth organization called the Youth Troopers for Global Awareness. And it sounds like such a bad but name. I didn't want to curse there. And it is actually doubled as a social enterprise cafe in Mississauga. So if you live in the GTA, it's called Studio 89. And what they would do, they would utilize all the funds from their like fair trade, zero waste cafe. And it would fund different events and education opportunities for youth in the GTA. And I really, really wanted that job. I wanted that job so badly because I knew it would help me on this journey to learn more about how I could be a leader for youth development, youth leadership, and also being able to continue that education journey, supporting youth and understanding what are the social justice issues of today and how can we overcome them as young people, because I truly believe that we have the power to change the world. You Gen Zs especially, it is in your hands, no pressure, but you already have it in you because you've watched it unfold year after year of your life. So what happened is I ended up applying for this job. I never thought I would get it because I didn't have a university background. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea how I was going to be an executive director. And I was 24, 25 years old. And guess what? I got the job. I got the job, and I got the job because they loved how diverse my resume was. They loved that I had been to different countries and I had tried out new things and I had put my hands into new projects and really was able to take something and apply it in the real world. And this, my friends, is the power of your gap year, because you are going to do so many things that you get actually put real hands-on experience into and show the world what you can do. That is so much more powerful than just sitting in a classroom. So just remember that my gaps are what got me this amazing, amazing job. And while I was there, teaching young people about social justice issues and how to support fair trade consumerism and how to get their parents on board, and diving into local social justice issues around race and religion and everything that was happening in the GTA at that time, I had a light bulb moment. And I called up my friend Manoj, who was a dear friend of mine while I was in Gajner and really helped me with all these projects. And he was a local to the village of Gajner. And I was like, hey, I have this idea. You to run a restaurant or hotel. And I've always wanted, and I always had this vision of I'd love to run a hostel. That'd be so fun. Every young traveler's vision is to run a hostel. And I was like, let's come together and see how we can make this work while supporting all the amazing kids that were doing all that amazing work in Gajner. So after about a year and a half at this amazing job, I actually quit and I headed back to India, and Manoj and I went head down into planning this idea of how we could use hospitality as a way to support development in Bikaner, in that city of Bikaner that doesn't get much tourism. Remember I was telling you about that? And we put together a business plan. We had no idea really what we were doing. And we got a property in 2017. And we decided that we were going to open India's first zero waste guest house. And our zero waste guest house, it was a social enterprise where 20% of our profits would go into making sure that all of those young people, all of those projects that were running in Gajner could still be supported while supporting other young people in the city. And in 2018, I raised $10,000 through a crowdfunding platform so that we could launch it. And those are photos, my friends, of the first zero waste guest house in India, Hara House. So I was all of those years, so this was, 2018. Now I can't remember how old I am now. So I can't remember how old I was when I launched this, 26, 27. All of those years of thinking like I'm failing, I don't know what I'm doing, all of those skills, they finally came together and just fit. And it was so diverse. Like I was bringing together my event management skills and my fundraising skills and my sponsorship skills and my community development skills and business strategy skills, community skills. And we launched in 2018. This was the same summer that I was actually also working. I was working as a tour leader for Operation Groundswell at the time. So that's how me and Jigger met and became the bestest of friends. He actually took some amazing photos of the property as well. I wish I had them. And I ended up taking that community with me and like all of those friends. So like in the top right corner, you'll see my friend Yvonne, who was another program leader at the time. She came and helped me build, and we had all these people just come together. On the bottom right corner, those were our amazing first interns who helped us launch this amazing organization. They're actually the inspiration, Darren and Diksha. They are, oh, I love those girls so much. They actually inspired me to think bigger. They were like, Jazzmine, we want to see bigger. We want to see tours and travel, programs across India. Like, how can we get more people involved in the mission that we have, which is to understand that sustainable travel is possible? And these two young ladies helped us empower more female students to become part of the tourism industry. By 2020, we had launched tours across India, in Bombay, in Delhi. We opened our second zero waste space, and we actually turned from Hara House to Hara World. We became, and sorry, I actually never said that Hara means green in Hindi. So it's the greenhouse and the green world that we created. And that world was not possible without this incredible, vibrant community coming together and helping make this possible. We had so many people with just coming in and supporting us and making this happen. It just seemed so magical. We were featured in magazines and on news platforms, and people were funding us and supporting us and helping us find new spaces and grow and grow and grow. But then 2020 hit, and we all know what happened in 2020. In March 2020, just after, just after I got married, me and my husband were planning to head down to Bombay, and my goal was to start another space in South India when the entire world went into lockdown. And I had to say goodbye to this amazing project that I had built over the last couple of years. The tourism industry fell flat. I couldn't even get to Bikaner. I was locked down in Chandigarh in a different city, couldn't get a hold of anything. And I had to watch my dreams literally get flushed down the toilet because of the pandemic. And I'm curious, is there anyone out there that had one big thing taken away from them during the pandemic? Because I'm sure we can all relate on this, whether it was a project or community or someone that we loved. It was like, this is something that I think we'll always be able to connect on as we grow, is that we all lost something really, really special to us during that time. And I want us to also reflect on that, because here we are a few years out. You've chosen to take a gap year. And I want to let you know that even though I sat and I cried and I felt like a failure and I felt like everything, the world was after me and I was never, everything was just taken away from me, I took a moment in that time to really think about, okay, well, this is totally out of my control. Nothing is in my control. And that is our biggest learning lesson. Nothing is in our control. So is it really failure? Is it really us not doing well at what we were trying to build? No. We have control over absolutely nothing. And that's why you need to reclaim your life and claim this year, just like I claimed the last 2 years after Hara House came down. Since then, we have pivoted, we have shifted, we have been flexible, we've turned our project into other things. How can we turned it into a social entrepreneurship platform, and how we support other young people across India and the world, and how they launch their own social enterprises. How can they build businesses that are for good? And I'm so grateful of where we are now, and that we were able to continuously shift and pivot through all of these changes. And I want you to remember this as you go through this year, because yes, there might still be restrictions, there might still be things going on with the pandemic, but you are in one of the most incredible years of your life where you have the power to do whatever you want and to take up those skills. You're able to have that no fear gap year and just completely push all of those preconceived notions and conceptions and everything that anyone's ever told you about what young adulthood is going to look like. I want you to push that out the window, because I had no idea that me starting a nonprofit that I had no idea what I was doing at 17, 18 years old would lead me to launching one of the most coolest projects of my life. And even though it doesn't exist anymore, I am so proud of it, and I'm so honored that we continue to shift and grow, and now there's new projects that are stemming out of it. And I think we have to remember that after every disaster, after every hurricane or earthquake or anything, that the soil what's the word I'm looking for? You can tell I woke up at 5:30 now. I'm getting a little sleepy. The soil reestablishes itself, it rejuvenates itself, and new life grows from those ashes. So we have to think, okay, well, if we've already been through such all these hard times, how can we really move forward and grow from what we've learned? So I want to leave you all on a few tips that I think are really helpful from all of this. Because the truth is, there is no linear way to accomplish anything. Nothing ever works out totally perfect. Maybe once or twice, but most of the time it will not. And just remember that now. But I do have a little secret formula. And I think it's that if you have the clear goals, if you have a plan of action, if you have community, if you have accountability and flexibility, you will achieve awesomeness. Because you have to think of your life as like these chapters or a puzzle, whatever one you prefer. Because every year you're putting together another chapter of that story, or you're putting another piece together of that puzzle until it creates this beautiful piece of art, just like the no fear gap year piece that you're creating in front of you. Hopefully you didn't forget to keep working on it. And that is going to lead you to awesomeness. And don't worry about getting diverted from that path. If you get diverted a million times, that's okay. It's supposed to happen. But just stay clear on those goals. I knew that I wanted to do something that would make a difference in the social justice and environmental justice world. And I did do that. It took years for me to get there, but that's okay, because all of those years leaded up to the greatness of it. And I want to leave you with this quote, because this is something that one of my best friends told me a few years ago. And it's with me ever since, because I think it is just so huge. You overestimate what you can do in 1 year, and you underestimate what you can do in 5. Let me say that again. You overestimate what you can do in 1 year, and you underestimate what you can do in 5. So this year, keep looking. I want you to keep working on that no fear gap fear picture or digital art that you're working on. And I want you to think of it as every year you're adding colors and sparkles and new strokes and beauty to it. And don't worry if at the end of this year you look back at it and you're like, oh God, I didn't accomplish any of those things. Trust me, if you have it in front of you and you look at it every day, you're going to be making small steps consciously and subconsciously towards those larger goals. And remember, again, you will probably set yourself 4 million goals this year. And again, you are overestimating. Remember that all of the things that you do this year are going to lead up to that 5-year plan. And what I want you to do as well is, if you're attending Gap Year Accelerator, bring that photo with you. Bring it to Michelle and share it with your group. And we're also going to share it in Discord. So try and finish it tonight if you can, or tomorrow. I'll leave it open until like the weekend. I'm going to be giving away a Gap Year Accelerator spot with a Toronto boot camp. I'm going to give the full package away to the best No Fear Gap Year drawing I see in Discord. So I'll start a thread in there. You can drop it in the chat. I'd love to see it. And I want to let you know that I did this exercise with myself last year where I drew out my entire year. And yeah, when I look back at it, I'm like, I definitely did not accomplish anywhere close to half of what was on done there, but I know that I did take steps towards those goals this year that will end up coming to fruition in the next 5. I know that. So I'm going to leave you with that. And just a few things about what happens after Frosh Week. So just remember to stay connected with us. Schedule meetups with the people that you met this week. Go for what feels like a heck yes in your gut. Follow your heart. And always make sure that you're staying in the right mindset. That is what we are here for. That is what your community is here for. And that is what is to use Discord for. We are there to support you every step of the way. And like I said, we're all going to hit that slump in our gap year when we don't feel super great and don't feel super awesome. Remember to check back in with your community, because they are going to continue to push you forward just like they did for me. So thank you, everybody. I can't wait to see your drawings. And I'm going to invite Michelle back in. Michelle, come join me.
Hello.
Oh, costume change. I love it.
We can't have just one outfit.
Looking good.
Yeah. So Jazz, you are just so super cool, and I have to rely on props to make me cool. But your life story, I think, is so inspirational for all of our gappers, to see that you are going to inevitably hit road bumps along the way. And yet that mindset of just taking them as a road bump and moving forward, moving through them, taking that learning from it, allows you to move into something different, something better, something more aligned with where you want to go in your life. And I think the ability to dream about that no fear gap year is such a gift that you have given to everyone today. So thank you so much for sharing your story.